talk to Bunty Marks, you see, because Bunty Marks is the person in the village who knows everything. She's been here all her life, and well, now I mean, we know your Bobby Allen was your brother.
Yes.
And I mean, he was wonderful character. We got to know Bobby quite well, actually. He used to do a bit of work round here.
Yeah, he was very unusual. There couldn't be two. You wouldn't want two of them because he was a lovely boy, but as for going, when a person wanted him to do anything, he would come, but he would come at 10 o'clock at night.
Well,
and stay half the night.
Yeah.
And I mean, he only worked when he wanted to work, because he loved his shells, you know.
Yeah. Well, can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not really against Bobby, but it's amused me so much. When we first came here, you may or may not know that the Bullins, this place was in a bit of a state, to put it mildly. You know?
Yes, I know what you mean.
And the basement down here, which is a very useful working area, had 2 inches of water all the way through, you see. So we got rid of the water, and we wanted to put our washing machine down there.
I see, yes.
And that was fairly urgent, you see, because obviously we wanted to do some washing. So we asked around the village for the electrician. Oh, yes, get hold of Bobby, you see. And it was only a couple of weeks after we came in, and Bobby came round, and he opened the front door to him. Mr. Bacon, I understand you want some work. Yes. Oh, thank you for coming, Bobby, so much, you see.
Your troubles were over.
Yeah, we did, and we said, well, it's only a matter of a couple of plugs down in the basement because we want to get the washing machine done. I said, can you treat it as urgent, Bobby, you see? Well, I expect I called him Mr. Allen then. But anyway.
You said the wrong thing when you said urgent.
Yeah, I think I might have done, because a week or so later, we were talking about, we realised how bad things were, and we'd have to have a rewire, you see.
Yes. Oh.
So we got a couple of the SEB and another contractor in to give us quotes for the rewire.
Yeah.
And we decided that the SEB was the best quote, so we'd have them do the rewire. Well, they were very prompt, and within a couple of weeks they'd started work. And within a month or so they'd finished work.
Yes.
Another month or two went by, and I think it was 3 months to the day, there was a ring at the front door, and I opened the door and I thought, I've seen you before somewhere.
Very long time ago.
Yes. He said, oh, Mr. Bacon, I've come to do those plugs you wanted done. And I said, Bobby, I'm sorry, but we've had the whole place rewired while we were waiting for you.
To be honest, I'm not one whit surprised at what you said. Not a bit. And when we took over that little bungalow, it wanted a bit of doing, and so we had to have the essentials done. And because he was my brother, I felt, well, of course he'll come.
That's right.
Well, he did when he was dragged. I used to literally go up and get him. But he used to come at 10 o'clock at night. Now, at that time, my husband was going over the other side because he was an army chap. And we were dying to get back to the island. And so he got at Portsmouth, I forget the name of the house, so it doesn't matter where he worked. So he had to get up fairly early in the morning and go. But Bob used to come about 10, and he would call out to Eric, come and hold this wire, Eric, you know, from up the top. You probably, well, just as well you didn't have him, because you would have done half of it. And Bob would still be there at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
Because I used to say, why do you start so late? He says, well, Auntie, I've got to do my own work first.
and take the dog for a walk?
it was the dog came first,
yes,
you know that.
Yes, oh yes.
But on the other hand, if any elderly person, old person, came to his door and said, will you put a bulb in, Bobby? He used to go. And just put her.
Oh, he's a very.
But he was a character.
Kind-hearted chap, yes. Oh, very much so, yes. Anyway, let's get back to square one because it's all right.
I'll be doing a bob.
You started life in St Helens, did you, Bunty?
Well, no, not really.
Not really.
Because we were at Bembridge.
Oh, I see.
And my father was in the Shore Signal Service, and he died suddenly. Yeah. And that's when we came to St Helens. But
1920s.
I was very young. Yeah, because you do know that I'm 86 come the 1st of April.
Well, I didn't know exactly, but I knew you were doing very well.
You no need to put in the county press, you know. It's all right. So I did grow up in
the village.
In the village, and of course I worked in a local grocer's shop, and at that time, and I'm not exaggerating in any way, I knew everyone in every house when their cat had kittens and how many, because we heard it all.
Yes. Who was the grocer then?
Well, in my day, it was Chorley.
Chorley.
That's right. And then he built some cottages along the road, didn't he? He went off a grocery and he built Crosby Cottage.
Did he?
Well, when I say he built them, they were small cottages, and he knocked them into one.
Oh, that's interesting, because he became sort of an estate agent, didn't he, eventually? He went across to smugglers, did Chorley. For the last few years he was in the village.
Yes. He sort of hopped about a bit, you see, because I thought it was very odd to go from where, well, he didn't weigh the sugar, but, selling sugar, to going to building.
Selling houses,
Quite nice Crosby cottages.
Oh, yeah. So that was altered. When would that have been done? That's in the 50s, was it, when he was walking?
How many years?
No, it'd been in the 30s.
30s. Oh, long time ago.
Because Chorley was before Mr. Jackson, wasn't he?
Chorley was 1929, actually. Now I've remembered,
And then Whittington took over from...
Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson.
He didn't take the bottom, did he?
Oh, not the bottom. No, that's not.
Because I worked at Jackson as well.
Well, that's what I was thinking of,
Well, now, come on. What can you remember of before you started work, when you were a really young child? And what was the village like then?
Well, when I think back on it, it was completely village. There wasn't a lot going on, except we did used to have socials and that sort of
dances and
thing. In Latimer Road there was, what was it,
the Liberal Hall.
It was burnt out, wasn't it? And we used to have they were called socials, and little youngsters, I'm talking about little ones and bigger ones, and the old ones all used to come to these socials, and it was lovely.
It was such a
we thought it was lovely.
Well, it was a very close-knit community, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And well, of course everybody knew each other. Of course they did. And I can remember when Catherine was a very young girl, going to school with a round hat. But that was when I was a little bit older, wasn't it?
Well, I can work it out now. There's nearly 14 years between you anyway. So that means that if you were 16, Catherine was only 2, you see, so you'd been about 18 by the time you remembered her, or 20 by the time you remembered her at school.
Yes, that's right.
Tell me who sticks in your mind from those days, the characters in the village?
Well, naturally old Johnny Manville. He used to come to the gate with the mail, but he used to bring telegrams and postcards, and he used to come in the gate and bawl out, if it were a telegram, "It's all right, there's nothing to worry about." He'd read it, you see, he knew. And if it was just a postcard from anywhere, having read it, then he would hand it in and say, "It's from so-and-so, and she's saying so-and-so." But you didn't think it was awful.
No.
Because this is...
well, everybody knew everybody else's business, I suppose, or to a certain extent.
And if they didn't, they would have, you
yes,
see.
they'd find out, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was all very, very friendly and sort of cosy. And of course, we had a little dog, and in those days, you didn't have to have your dog on a lead.
No.
And he used to go up on the green and often be brought back. Not because he was in any trouble, but when you feel the difference now, it's I mean, the whole atmosphere was different. Perhaps it's because I was young. I don't think so really, though, because as I grew up, it was the same. It was only after the war it all.
Yeah. Well, people have changed, haven't they? I mean, their whole attitude and the way people carry on.
But we did have some characters, and well, I expect you know about a lot of them.
I can never know enough. I always like to delve and find out more, you see, if I can.
I mean Sammy Bull.
Yeah.
Now, he was another real character. He used to make his donuts around the corner. You could smell them, and if you went near enough, he would give you one.
Really? Yeah.
Out of the oven.
This is what they called the old steam bakery, wasn't it?
That's it, yeah.
And that was behind the grocer's shop there.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
And of course, the smell was absolutely lovely, but you could always get one from...
So he
would grumble as he gave it you.
Yeah, he of course was been before the Henley's bakery got going, wasn't it? A little bit.
Yes, but Henley's weren't far behind, were they?
No, about the same, I suppose. I'm just thinking whether the two were going at the same time, because
at one time they were.
Yeah.
But Sammy started before.
That's right, and finished before. I expect.
Before,
Yeah, because Henley's donuts. I mean, I've heard a lot about their donuts being very special as well.
Yeah, well, of course.
Perhaps donuts
but then
are very
everything
popular.
was special then.
Yes.
Somehow, wasn't
Well, that's
it?
right.
Because it was all
homemade and.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
So you started. You were in Latimer Road always, were you?
No.
No. After Bembridge, I mean, when you came to the village. Where did you?
Because the reason that we came, after my husband was a village boy, but he went into the army. He went to a boys' army school, and so he was an army man. The whole time. So I did when I. Oh, of course, when we married.
Yes.
Went,
married quarters. Yes, I know what you're going to say. Yes.
But of course, wherever we always came back. Of course, in later years we went abroad, but then that was after the war. So after the war, it's not half as interesting, really.
Oh no.
Is it?
But I mean, the house where you are now. Well, how long have you been there?
Well, that's not a very old house because. You see, we only came back to this house when Eric was posted to Portsmouth.
Oh, I see.
So we haven't got an old house, but the boy Coombs, what's his name? Roger.
Yeah.
Coombs. So it's not very old, our house, but the houses opposite, the other side of Latimer Road.
You're on the left-hand side going down, are you? What's the name of yours then?
Tamarisk.
Oh, you're in Tamarisk.
Well, you see.
I mean, I didn't know.
That was all fields.
Yes, I didn't know where you were.
Robert Coombs' garage.
That's right. Yeah.
He used to. He had. Well, when you say garages, he had 10 places to put the. Because there weren't many cars in those days.
No. So he was on that side, and then on the other side you had Weymouth Cottage, didn't you, with the malls?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then there was nothing really below that on your side until, well...
No, but
60.
It was built on bit by bit because it was all belonged to the Coombs. That lot.
That's right. Because Rosemary Woodhouse's house, that's one of the older ones, isn't it?
That's one of the older ones. There's only about I don't know how
And
old.
Doricum, I don't. Who lives at Doricum? That's another older one, isn't it? There's
The
three
one
down
before Rosemary Woodhouse was
Meadow.
the
Meadow
nurses, wasn't it? Nurse Douglas. District
Yes.
nurse used to live there.
Yes. Yes, that's right. But then,
I don't know which is Doricum.
No, it's one of the older ones. There's
Yeah.
New
and
Haven,
then
Doricum.
some Coombs lived above that, didn't they? Dick Coombs lived
Yeah.
in a.
Well, he lived the other side of you, didn't he? Where
No,
isn't that where Mavis lives or not?
Oh, I thought we were talking about that. On the left.
Yeah, on your
Because
side.
they didn't all go up quickly, did they? These,
Because Dick Coombs was Bert's brother, wasn't
yeah, well, years ago.
he? Yeah.
I've never heard of
It
Dick.
was all Coombs.
I never
Yes,
heard of
'cause
Dick. I mean, I know
No.
Ginger and Alan and all the others,
Yeah.
but not Dick.
Well,
I know,
that's a
but-
different generation,
Yeah,
isn't it,
yeah,
you see?
that's right. Yes,
But
you're
Dick,
one back.
He had a
Coombs,
son, Douglas, the same age as
That's right.
myself, because we went
Yes.
to school together.
and that, and wasn't their house Doricum?
Yes, I think
Oh,
it
that's
was.
it then.
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Don't know who's in there now, but doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
And then Southcote's,
Mm.
Gerald Southcote went into it. You wouldn't know that, but he did. And
Yeah.
what was the girl Southcote? And was she a bit lame? You don't know, dear. Of course you don't. You're not old enough.
We're too young, that's right. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't know. You see, that's where...
Well, no, of course.
No, that's
you
where
wouldn't.
I'm at a
But you
disadvantage.
see, we had Coombs at the top on the other side.
Gertie Coombs.
No, the one that got on well. No, wait a
Oh,
minute.
Hubert,
Hubert. Yeah,
Michael's father.
yeah,
right.
that's right. There was Hubert Coombs, and then wasn't it was his sister? Was it lived next door?
Aunt Selina.
Day.
Oh, Mrs. Oh, yes, Mrs. Day. Yes. I've got her on the film.
Yeah, yeah,
Lena Day.
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
And then Selina Dennis.
that's it. Oh yes. Yeah.
Aunt Selina.
Yeah, that's right. But and I know I can't remember the girl Southcote. Well, it was the Southcotes. It wasn't only her, but I can only remember her as the daughter. But of course, she was years and years older than me then. It's gone a long time, of course.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. That sort of Latimer Road. I don't know whether Catherine's told you, what I'm trying to do now is research the houses around the green.
Oh yes.
You remember I did the shops around the green?
Yes, yes.
And I thought it would be nice, but I think I've bitten off rather more than I can chew, because it's difficult to find out a lot about a lot of the houses. I mean, I'm all right down on this lower green side.
Yes.
Really along as far as Latimer, but after that and going on to the upper green, it gets rather more scant, the information. So whether you know or can tell me anything or stories about any of the houses around the village, or
If you start at the post office and work along from
that's
Dick
right.
Whittington, the bus driver,
Yes.
Where was he then? Was he?
where the lady lives with the sauce.
Oh, the News of the World lady.
Yes.
So that was Dick Whittington, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a daughter, Jean, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Nothing to do with the Whittington, the grocer. Nothing to do with the grocer Whittington.
Oh no! Because he was an incomer.
Mm.
He wasn't.
Oh,
at
I
St.
see.
Helens.
Oh, right.
Wasn't
Yeah.
born and bred, but he was there in the 30s.
Pardon?
He was there in the 30s, wasn't he?
Yes, but he was still an incomer.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Oh,
he?
yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
wasn't a village.
No.
He wasn't a village chap, was he?
Yeah.
He appeared at my door years and years and years ago. And he said, "Are you Bunty?" And I thought, "Crikey, my past is catching up with me. Who are you?" But however, that's we're dying.
Yes, that was SF Whittington, wasn't it? Yeah, from the shop thing, I remember.
Yeah.
But Dick was an islander, was he?
Yeah.
He
He
was
worked for Southern Vectors, didn't he?
That's right, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And when we had Weatherick, didn't we, lived at the top too?
He was the other side of the shop, though, wasn't he? Before he got to Stan Burden's.
Yes. But who else have we got in between?
Well, Jack Harvey.
Oh,
Miss Harvey's son. I could never understand how
and
Miss
Miss
Harvey.
Oh dear.
Was
You're
she-
supposed to say back in 2 minutes on her shop.
She was a sweet shop, wasn't
Yeah,
she?
yeah.
Oh, yes, right. Yeah. So was that her brother or her husband you were
Her
talking
son, wasn't it?
about? Son.
Pardon?
Jack was her son, wasn't he?
Yes, yes. We didn't talk about it. It
No.
was her son.
Because
Oh.
I could never understand as a
No.
child.
No, well,
You have to
I
add it,
didn't really, but I realised later that Miss Harvey used to keep where I don't know what his name is. You know, the chap that seems to get back and.
Oh, Maitland.
Yeah,
Okay.
she had the shop there. But who was
The
that?
Harveys, and then there was the Dyers. Ginny Dyer,
Oh yes, indeed, you're right.
Which house were they in?
the
Yeah,
next one along.
So
that's right.
are we near Buena Vista, they call it, and they all, they've changed the name now. Where Garby's used to be. Am I right?
Well, this is before.
Those
Well,
three.
there's the
Where
News
you
of
got
the World,
Poplars.
and then no,
Oh,
before that,
you haven't got
I'm
there
just
yet.
working
Right,
along.
okay.
Yeah.
Next door to her, it was the because, and then Aunt Urena was in the next.
That's it. That's it.
One of those
yeah.
is called Ashley, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ashley is where the Harveys were,
Oh,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then he was a funny fellow.
and then there was Ginny Dyer,
That's it. Yeah.
a strange couple that used to sell us eggs. But where they got the chicken? Where were the chickens?
And
Must have been up in the yard with Aunt
but
Urena.
how about the chap that white that did the boots, the shoes?
Oh
he
well,
was in
yes,
the
well,
shop,
was
wasn't
coming.
he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, he was coming next, wasn't he?
That's Ivy
And
Hall.
he used to mend the shoes and boots or whatever, and he would say, "A lot of people have got something around their necks when they pass my shop if they owe anything." He was a funny old man.
Yes, I know a little bit about
But
him.
that,
Yeah. And he was there a good many years, wasn't
he
he?
was there a good many
Yeah,
years. Yeah, a long time. Then it went into a fish and chip shop, I think, didn't it? Before Charlie took it on. Charlie Wade took it on.
Oh, you're talking back
Oh,
there.
you've gone back again.
Yeah, back to the cabin.
Yeah, however.
Bert Churchill.
And so where are we now as far as?
Well, I was coming back to the farmyard with Aunt Urena,
Yes.
and then White's the shoe shop. Was it White's when you first came? It wouldn't have been.
The shoe shop.
I mean, White's the paper
Paper
shop.
shop.
Yeah.
No, was somebody thought that was?
Chalacoombe?
No,
That-
that was
Afterwards.
later.
Well, it was
It could-
Moody. Moody was the
Moody's?
first. Moody was the first one I remember.
I think there was someone.
In between. Doesn't matter.
No,
That's not of such interest to me now because having dealt with the shops, I'm more interested in the
Well, of
houses.
course, that's
Now
it,
you see,
yeah.
next door to
Yeah.
that shop, coming this way, you had what was 2 cottages, didn't you? It's now 1.
That's right.
Where
I mean,
the-
I don't know very much about that
That's
place.
where the Weathericks lived.
That's where the
that
Weathericks
was
lived,
Weathericks, was it?
and
Number
the
40.
the son was on the buses there. Who lived next door then?
Well, Mr. and
Poplars.
Mrs. Phillips had it.
Which Phillips?
Harold Henley's in-laws,
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Howard Phillips.
That's right. See, you
And
know more than I do.
Daisy Ansell lived in, after the Weathericks left, she lived in there. She was a retired school mistress
Yeah.
from the end.
I've heard about
beginning.
Daisy Ansell, yeah.
And as she was dying, she was on, what's her name, Ida Gregory was sitting with her. And as she was dying, she said, "I've had such a lovely life." She was 90 odd. "I've been all over the place." And Ida said, "Have you?" Said she knew she'd never been off the island. Said, "Where have you been, Daisy?" Said, "Oh, I've been to Ventnor and I've been to Freshwater." She said, "I've been all over the place. I've had a lovely life."
Well, and she probably
And that
had.
was her
Yeah.
too.
Yes,
Yes.
and she probably had.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there's no need to go anywhere else, is there, really, to enjoy yourself, the islands?
Not really. Not really.
So then you come on to Poplars then after that, do you? Burden?
Gwen Burden's.
Yeah. And who lived in
the first part?
Gwynburn?
So her grandfather or something supposed to have lived there. The other side of Stan was one side, and I thought it was always family.
Yeah.
Stan used to make the coffins, didn't he?
Did he?
Well, somebody told me he did, in the backyard there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would be a bit frightened about that, you see.
Yes, we don't want to talk about it, no.
Then Olive was in the next house, Olive Burton.
Yes, I can remember. Yes, now you say it, of course I can remember them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jog your memory a bit for you, see?
What can you remember about them, Bunty? Anything particular you can remember about all these burdens and...
You mean anything a bit peculiar?
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Well...
that they were different.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't anything very funny about... how about we got further along now, though. Tomatoes, that burden.
That was Oliver, wasn't it?
Yeah. You mean Poof?
Yeah, Pooch.
Pooch, Mooch and Tobacco Pouch.
Yeah. He was a very odd man, wasn't he? Reggie, yeah. But his sister...
Zoe. Well, she only died a couple of years ago,
I know
didn't
she did, yeah. But she was very smart, wasn't she?
But he wasn't quite.
She belonged to the village somehow, didn't she?
I don't think Reg was 100%.
I always remember when he fell from the ladder.
Oh, did
You
he?
mustn't laugh.
This is Reg Burden.
Yes, he really was a very odd person.
Why? Where was he when he fell from the ladder then?
Doing something to his...
home.
And he said to me one day, you must come in and see this house, you know. It's the best house in St. Helens. And I'm taking all over the house, and he's... Of course, was his father built it?
Or Oliver.
Yeah.
Could have done. Because he went on to 100 odd, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because that's what I was...
Coach didn't. He didn't last too long. He was too funny, he wasn't too odd.
Why Pooch?
Well, that was just that
was a nickname.
Was just everyone called him Pooch.
Oh, I see.
I don't know whether he ever approved, but he didn't approve of anything, did he? He was a very odd man.
Right.
Yes, he was a bit of a character, really, when you think about it.
Well, then you've got Willie Wade not far from him then.
Oh, Willie. And he used to always have his texts outside. But he wasn't quite as he...
No.
No.
You want to hear Margaret Wade about him? But I couldn't repeat it. He'd have something about his Bible in one hand and something else in the other hand.
Exactly.
Now, Willie Wade, yes, but you see, he moved around a bit, didn't he? I mean, was this when he was in Bay Cottage?
Yes.
That was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up there, didn't he?
Oh, he ended up there.
Yeah.
He was in Smugglers
He was
as
in
well.
the Smugglers years ago,
Yes.
when he first came. Yeah.
I mean,
But he ended up...
He really was another character, wasn't he?
In more ways than one.
Yeah, absolutely. There were two sides to him, without any doubt, but we won't go into that.
Well, these Wades, I mean, they professed to be very religious men, didn't they? I mean, there was
Yes.
Willie and then Charles. I can remember Charles, but was he Willie's son, or was he, what relation would he be?
Yes, well, but Charles was
No.
the old man's...
Was it Charles was Nick Wade's father's, Walty Wade's son, wasn't he?
Walt Wade had an enormous family of
yeah, that's Nick Wade's
sons,
father. He was his
So
father
that's-
because he had several families.
Dolly Wade's husband, then?
Yes.
I mean, I've still got to... They say I should talk to Dolly Wade, but I haven't had the courage to ask her yet, really. But you see, you've missed out all those cottages, Yarborough cottages, haven't we? We've started further along. So let's go back to Dolly Wade and Yarborough, because she's always lived there, hasn't she?
Oh, yeah, yes. Because Walty lived there.
She married old Walt.
Yes. He was very much
he had
older.
8 sons with his first wife.
Oh,
I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say 8. Well, there was one girl, 2 girls, weren't there?
I don't know.
But he had a lot of sons. And of course,
good breeder.
Charlie and Jim, they always old. There must have been 7 or 8 of them. But I can't tell you where they all lived.
so his first wife, did she died? And
Yes.
Yes.
And
I think she did after having 10 children.
and then he married
She was a Thomas, wasn't she?
Dolly Thomas.
Yeah.
Because she had a sister Eileen. Well, she's still alive.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
so
she's
is
able.
Dolly.
Yeah.
She married old Walt Wade.
He
And
was
Nick's
a character.
Nick Wade,
Well, he's another
Dolly's
character, isn't he?
his mother, isn't it?
Yeah.
But she had several children.
She had 4 by
Yes.
she 2 girls and 2 boys.
I really
Before
can't-
she married Walter?
Oh no.
With
No,
Walter.
No,
Yeah.
she only had one before she married, didn't she?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I think she had one. I thought you knew all the scandal, you see. Yes, she had one before.
That was before my time.
Well, was she married before she married
was,
Walter?
dear.
She wasn't married then.
She wasn't married when she had the first one. But then they did marry, and she had several children as well. Until she did realise why she kept having children. So she asked her mother. You can't put this in your
No, I won't. No, don't worry.
And her mother told her, well, you go and sleep in another room and then you won't have any children anymore. And so that was all right for Dolly then. But Nick
I don't think Dolly would tell you that.
No, I don't think she would, no.
No. But Nick Wade's a big character too, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
I don't know who else was in Yarborough then.
The drivers were one side.
Oh dear, the drivers, yes. Yeah, they were an odd lot. They weren't really St Helens people, were they? I don't really think, never mind, that they were there a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, that was drivers. I don't think there's anything...
And then the other side, there used to be someone that used to call out, because we could hear at home, saying, Alfie! Alfie!
Are we still talking about Yarborough?
Yes. Before Flight Thompson. Remember Flight Thompson with one eye?
Oh,
and
indeed. Yeah.
And he married
I
Mrs.
remember about him, his bigness.
And he married Mrs. Manville, didn't he?
That's it.
Billy Manville's widow.
So that's number 3. That's coming this way.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Then you've got Linden Cottages.
Yeah. Roll Jones.
Yeah. And there was the 2 goods, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the 2 goods with the
this side
clocks.
And the son used to mend watches.
He was a bit of an invalid, I think.
He was indeed, yeah.
Is that the same one that Roland Jones was in then?
No, the other side.
The other side, so it's number 2.
Yeah.
Roland was in number 1.
Yeah, Roland Jones, the
golfer.
And she was quite a
yes,
upright lady with...
I didn't know them. I knew the...
Well, Roland died in 52. Because I've got a note of that from the paper.
She was out of the village then,
Oh, yes, you wouldn't have been here then, Bunty.
Who lived in the other cottages then?
Next door to Linden. Because Linden...
There was Rosalie somebody.
Yeah, then you had Bloomfield Cottages, didn't you? They followed on. Bloomfield.
Oh, aren't they?
Further on, yes, there were 2 more in between, weren't there?
Before you get to the Feekses.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Because Rosalie...
Feeks, yeah.
Who was Rosalie? Someone that owned several of the cottages. Rosalie, I can hear people talking about Rosalie. And Jack Cause, of course, lived on the corner, didn't he?
Yes.
Which corner?
Policeman.
Yeah.
Well, the Fix is here. Jack calls
on the other side of the road, or
where Morgan Hughes.
Oh, where Morgan Hughes is. Yes, right. Yes, Feeks are on this side.
Jack calls us the Bobby Bundy. Yeah.
Because his birthday is the same as mine. And I've still got the chair he made me for my first birthday.
Really?
Yeah, the children still use it, so at Sally's little armchair.
So a lot of interesting people down in that little section, weren't there?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Jim Feeks. I mean, there was another great upholder of the church then.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I mean, it seems ridiculous not to remember the whole lot of them along there at the top, but we've got halfway along, have we?
Yeah. Well, of course, the other thing you see that I've got to find out afterwards is the dates that these. I mean, you're really talking about just before the war.
Yes, I suppose we are. Aren't we?
30s and late 30s.
But you see, when I was really young, I didn't know the people in the houses as much as when I was older, naturally, because when you're a child, you don't really know who lives in all the...
Did you go to school at Bembridge?
I went to school at Bembridge, Used to go on nice days across a little bit of water with the Mike.
With Mike.
Oh, you went on the ferry. That's nice,
Yeah, but only when it was nice days. Don't forget I had a good walk to get there.
Yes.
That's right.
Who lived in the smugglers that you can remember?
I do remember though when talk about that when Queen Mary came across the lawn.
Yes.
Oh, you were there, were you?
Oh yes.
Oh.
And I was there and watched her because she'd been to the smugglers. And also.
There's something interesting I was pick up on there when you said Queen Mary came across the lawn.
Across the green.
Yes, but did you used to call it the lawn? Is that something,
not
or
really,
just a slip of the tongue?
No, not really. No, it was always the green.
Yes, I never heard it referred to as anything else.
It was always the green. But I can see her now, and she really was absolutely majestic.
Yes.
A bit frightening, really. But who was there at the smugglers at that time?
Appleby?
Appleby.
David Appleby was one of them, wasn't he? But then...
Well, I don't know whether the Queen went to see that at that time, but I mean...
This Myra Baldwin was there, wasn't
Myra there then?
Myra Baldwin. I think
before she moved up round here.
Well, it could have been, couldn't it?
I think she was, because we've got a picture of Queen Mary in the gateway at Smugglers, and on the gate it says Miss Baldwin or Myra Baldwin.
Yeah, then Myra was there. Yeah. We used to call her Vitamin Liz.
Yes.
Oh, we've heard
well,
a bit
she
about
was another character, wasn't she?
Oh, she was. She really was. Because
Sally worshipped the ground she walked on. She cosseted Sally when she was little. She still got books she gave her.
Well, but she was a real character. We didn't really understand all the sort of because she's a real. I mean, she was swimming when she was about 102, wasn't she?
We do nothing. Look over the wall at Ambleside. She had not a stitch on.
And she looked so skinny.
Yeah. She's sort of a bit like Gandhi.
We always said, well, there's Vitamin Liz. It wasn't meant to be unkind.
Oh, no.
It was
just a name that stuck, I suppose.
She was fit, wasn't she?
Yes.
When you think
lived on Dover's spinach and things.
That would be the time when it must have been Myra that the Queen went to see, mustn't it?
Oh, yes.
Smugglers, really,
that's right, yes.
Yeah.
And then she probably walked across the green to come over to Castle Cottage, did she? Because who was in there? Lady Bathurst?
I would think that would be the only place that she would want to go. You understand what I mean by that? But
there's no record of her having been to Castle Cottage that we know of, is there? No.
Well, we didn't ever hear that. I keep looking at it. We didn't ever hear that she went there because, to be honest, we were rather awestruck to see her coming across the green. Couldn't very well say to her, "Where are you going?" We should have done.
Yeah. Well, I know they were titled people in Castle Cottage, you see, so it's quite possible that's where she was going.
That would be fit for the Queen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And of course, she was friendly. I mean, I'd quite like you to tell me, Bunty, anything you can about Lady Baldwin, who was here.
Yes. Well, what I knew about Lady Baldwin, she was a very, very nice person, and she didn't look like a lady.
No.
I'm not saying that in a derogative way, because she used to come into the shop. I can't remember her. I had seen her before, but she used to come into the shop then, and she was a very ordinary lady. And to be honest, you could never think of her as Lady Baldwin, but she was always very nice, and always talked about Miss Mary. But I honestly can't tell you anything about her, except to me she seemed very ordinary. I think she did to most people. A nice person, though.
Well, she from what I can find out and understand, she used to mix in with the villagers.
That's exactly it. Exactly. She was no different.
No, that's right. Whereas
that was it.
You probably never even saw Sir Harry, did you?
Yes, she was one of the village. There's no doubt about that.
But her husband was very seldom here, wasn't he?
Oh, didn't ever see him.
No, that's right. That's right.
Perhaps it's because she was so ordinary.
Well, I don't know. I think probably it was because he was a very professional man, and
yes,
he was very busy.
He couldn't have lived in the village. He would have to be away a fair bit.
Yes, I think this place was probably a retreat for him, you know, where he'd come and...
But she lived there always.
Oh, yes. Of course. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, I've had long talks with Mary, of course.
Oh, of course you have.
Miss Mary, and...
Is she still ill?
No, she's all right. She's very frail, but I mean,
she is.
Her mind is as sharp as anything.
Is it?
Yes. I mean, she is just, as I say, extremely thin, and
I know,
she looks poorly, but I don't think she is really.
So old.
85.
I mean, I knew she wasn't quite as old as I am.
There's not much in it.
Doesn't matter.
No.
She lived. Did her father come and live? Her stepfather came. And he had a house in Latimer Road.
Oh, yes.
And she used to be there. But that's
Edmonds,
yes. That's one of your names.
Fairly recent. Yes, we met him actually. When we first came, he was around.
Because they were at Eddington Manor, weren't they?
Eddington Manor, yes.
She put them in there to start with.
Yes.
And then one
bungalow.
Died, didn't it? And they went down to the bungalow.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because they were just...
When you say Eddington Manor, of course, we haven't got round to the St. John's.
Well, yes, we have. Well, you haven't, but I know that the St. John's were there. No, I don't know all about, but I spoke to...
the silly little bits.
Why not? I had a very interesting conversation with Peggy Crickmay.
Yes.
And she told me they were in Eddington Manor for 42 years.
Yes, indeed.
Well, now, what are these silly little bits then that I don't know?
No. It's only sort of little domestic bits because they were rather odd.
Oh, well.
No. Odd. It's a bit...
Peculiar.
Eccentric.
That's a good word.
Right. But still, very nice. And the girls were always... well... They were always all right.
What were these daughters, or are you talking about Betty and Peggy?
Betty and Peggy. I mean, they were. Well, we've still got Betty and Peggy, haven't we? Peggy's at Membridge.
That's right. Yeah, and Betty's in the Elms or somewhere.
Yeah. Betty's blind, isn't she?
Well, she had this stroke, didn't she?
Yeah. The elder sister died, didn't she?
Yes. She lived down at Seaview, didn't she?
That's right.
That's the third one.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then there's the brother still alive there, I think, as well, isn't he?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because
he looks just like his father. They were in the Crab and Lobster once when I was there a couple of years ago.
They had a car, didn't they? So that we only had about 4 cars in the village. And the doctors used to be one.
Dr. Chambers
had a taxi.
Yeah.
And the St. Johns had a car. Oh, and Jack Miles had a car.
Oh.
Yes, we had 4 cars in the village.
God.
So that was something, wasn't it?
And that's only just before the war then? Or a bit I mean, 4 cars.
I was going to say, I think we only had 4 cars for a very long time, until my husband, when he was a young man, got one. No. But yes, it's true. And the doctor at that time, if you wanted a lift, if walking around the embankment, he would stop and give a lift. But
Dr. Chambers?
He was lovely. But his wife was a little bit sniffy. But never mind.
Winifred?
We had a lot of very nice people. We had a few odd ones. But on the whole, I suppose, not too many odd ones, did we really?
I was thinking you must have had 5 cars, because Baldwin had a car, didn't he?
Oh, well,
but he wasn't here really.
You didn't see him, you see.
And of course there's that old picture of Mabel Blackerston's husband with his car.
Right.
Yeah, but we only ever knew of these
that were around the village, yes, that's right.
But then we didn't think anything about it, because...
Oh, no.
And Mr. Jackson had a car because he rushed me off to hospital when I was 8.
So
that was mid-30s,
didn't he?
Yeah.
But it didn't sort of count him somehow.
Well, they were commercial, weren't they? Commercial vehicles, really.
Right.
In fact, I think we've got a picture of J. Jackson's van with the
yes, this
roof
was a car.
Oh, it was a car as well.
And Will Holloway had one because it was kept in the garage just above the post office. I used to play in it.
Oh, well, then.
And that was a probably 1920 or something, because it wasn't being used then.
Oh, well.
Do you remember Will Holloway?
Indeed, yeah.
Mustachios.
Yeah.
He was in the Boer War.
Yeah.
How about, C.J. Jacobs was before your time, really, wasn't he?
Well, I only knew the sons.
Yes. But that wasn't David, was it? What was C.J.'s sons then? Because David's another generation, isn't he? They were living at Mandalay, were they?
Yes.
Yes. Can you remember the sons' names? I've not come across them.
Derek. But that's my generation, Derek.
This was after the pier at Sandown, was it? I mean, the old man did that, didn't he?
Derek was my
when
age.
you say that, you see,
Gloria.
not only were they older than I was at that time, but I wouldn't really know you'd only know them as Richard Jacobs. In those days, you didn't have, you wouldn't dream of calling them by first name.
No.
Well, of course, I didn't even know their first names. But I can see them now, and the younger one was a very pleasant one. I didn't think the others were. But however...
I just remembered the Huddlestones as well.
Oh, yes.
Now, they were quite interesting people, weren't they?
The Huddlestones.
Gwen?
Oh, yes.
What are you doing?
And don't stand there, people need to come in and out. And she would say it as if people were rushing in and out of her house.
Is this Pen's mother?
People with it. And she used to have a stick and sort of almost whack people out of the way. Yeah. What happened to her daughter? Oh, she married a Curry, didn't she?
Yes, she married John Curry.
Yeah.
She lives over at Bembridge now.
Yes.
She's getting very much like her mother.
Is she? Not in the same way.
She came to my door one day. I said, "Go away, you're looking too much like your mother."
Yeah, she really was. She was another character, but not a very nice one.
No.
Not really. What do you think about her?
No, we were coming out of church one day. It had been a Thanksgiving. Somebody had died, and they, what's his name? The vicar, David Lowe, down at the Tin Church.
Yeah.
And he was shaking people's hands as they came out, and she was just in front of me. "I don't shake hands with people I don't mix with."
Yes, she was a real snob, wasn't she?
Yet her husband was someone, but she was only a...
Well, yes, but then that's why she was what she was. If she'd been someone, she wouldn't have been a snob, would she?
Well, I think I should probably say so, but I think Penn's a bit of a snob, isn't she?
Well, quite. Well, her father had a great bit like that in Debrett, and who's who. He was somebody, but he married a village girl.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, I see. She was a village girl.
Yeah. And they had a lovely house in London and a cook and a housekeeper and all that sort of thing. And Gwen suddenly come back down to her mother's place. No, because mother and Gwen went to school together, so I mean we couldn't put it over.
How about the vicar's wife before?
Mrs. Siddy Batham? No, she might have seen her.
Really? She was something, wasn't she?
I don't remember. I was too young.
She used to come into church. We were married 62 years ago. Siddy Batham. We used to call him Sidebottom, of course.
Yeah.
But it was Siddy Batham to her. But she had a car that he, poor man, used to either have a bike or a stick. He never had the car. But I don't think she lived here always, because I think she lived, but she used to come in a huge hat to church and a dress sweeping to the ground. She didn't come often. And there used to be poor Siddy. He didn't know where to look. And she was a very flamboyant person. Of course, we didn't really know her, because she didn't live. She didn't live, But she was a sight worth seeing, and she had an enormous car.
And a chauffeur.
And didn't she have a monogram on the door or something? Somebody once said.
You see, the whole point was, I think, she possibly had the money.
Yes.
And he didn't.
Oh, I see.
But he was a bit off. Do you remember Siddy Batham?
Yes, he was a very learned man.
I know he
wasn't
was.
He? Very learned.
He was. Yeah.
And I think he was a very lonely man too.
Well, the point is, how on earth did he marry her? We should have asked him.
Quite.
We should have asked him. But however,
he always used to appear at home just as a meal was going on the table.
Well, yes, because the poor,
mother would groan.
He was here for nearly 20 years as a vicar, wasn't he? I'll just show you something.
Was this all the same?
Yes.
Was he really?
Of course you were away, weren't you?
Yes, well, we married in the January of 40, and I don't. He'd been there some time then, hadn't he?
Because it was Mr. Lethbridge when I was a child.
Jog your memory.
Who's that?
We wrote your bit about him.
Yeah.
That's that little book I was telling you about.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you'll get one soon.
I had someone, and I honestly thought that it was you ringing. It was about a book, and he said, "You're Bobby Allen's sister," and I said yes, and he said, "Well, can you tell me the name of the last boat that Bobby was on?" Because he was a Navy chap, and of course he was in the war. And I said, "Well, I can't offhand. I went up in the loft and looked in the albums I might, but I wouldn't know offhand." And he said, "Because you think of Bob," he said, "I understand that he captained a ship back from Dunkirk." And I said, well, if he did, we didn't hear about it. He said, well, it was Robert Allen from St Helens. I said, well, I don't think there's two, but I just imagine Bob. But of course we don't know what he could do we? I mean, it's all very well. But, and the chap gave me a phone, but I must admit, at first I thought it was you see. Not that I don't know your name, but because he didn't give a name at first, and he was asking, because I just thought of you in books, you see. And he said, well, if you do think about it, will you let me know? But it was no good me trying to think about it, because Bobby was on several ships during the war, and to be honest, I wasn't home, and so I mean, I just I couldn't help him. He probably thought, well, but I can't think that it was Bob Allen. Can you?
I don't know, he'd probably rise to the occasion if he had to.
Well, I mean...
He wouldn't have stayed there to be machine gunned and killed.
And he said that he was a high-riser, chief petty officer. So I said, well, I didn't know he was a chief. But I said, I knew he was a petty officer. So he said, oh, yes. And I thought, well, he obviously knew more than I did, so why...
Well, so did you get it from the naval records?
Well, of course he did, yeah. But I can't help thinking Bob might have mentioned it, even if he was taken up with shells. I did rather think that you switched subjects, you see.
No, not me.
I think the only person who might know that might be David Cummings, Anne Bert's son.
He's a Navy officer.
He spent so much time with Bobby, didn't he? And that's why he went to the Navy as well.
He loved Bobby.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
When I say that, he meant it. Because
his parents didn't approve, did they?
Oh. I used to have...
David spent an awful lot of time.
Yes, because he could do as he wanted to do.
Right.
And he used to love to be
a lot of electrical stuff.
Indeed.
Well, that's why he took it up in the Navy as well.
Yeah, yes.
He is an engineer.
Yeah. And David was a very nice boy, and he was absolutely. Well, when Bobby went, he was really.
Yes, he. Sort of
but John Cummings used to get on the phone and say, "Is David with you?" And I say, "Why would David be with me?" Well, he said, "Then he must be at Bob's." I said, "Well, you go to Bob's then." But in the end, I'm afraid Eric had to tell him to stop ringing, because John was a bit, I mean, I know he's dead now, but he was a bit off.
You don't have to tell me that.